Plyometrics are something that's gaining a lot of popularity and a lot of recognition these days in the fitness space, which is a really good thing. They're really valuable types of exercises for everybody to really include in their program. They don't take a lot of time to do. You might as well sprinkle in at least a small dose of these, even if you're not like a jumping athlete or really, excuse me, an athlete that runs and sprints and all this stuff. It's a good way to just maintain some stiffness and reactivity throughout your body. That's something that goes away with aging. So it's kind of a good thing to do for longevity in that sense. You know, lifting weights gets a lot of the press and the recognition for the most important thing to be doing, which is something that I preach a lot, but you might as well add this stuff in real quick before or after your lift. Even just once a week, it can make a huge difference. It also is very useful as an entry point into kind of running and sprinting, because everybody wants to try to go for a run or sprint and they're like, oh, it hurts my knees, it hurts my ankles. You know, that's certainly been the case for me. Even if you lift, you're never really exposing, you know, it's a good starting point, but you're not exposing yourself to landing and springing off the ground. And so if you're someone that maybe grew up running and all this stuff, you took some time off and then you decide to get back into working out and you just go and you sprint and you run, you might feel some discomfort and stuff in your knees and your shins and ankles, and that could have been scaled into that more easily if you just maintained some plyometrics into your routine. So this isn't an all-encompassing video on plyometrics. I'm just going to give you a few simple things that you can do that you can quickly add in. You can even just do 1 or 2 sets of these. You know, you don't need to go to failure or anything. Gradually increase your dosage on these. Do it very gradually, especially if you aren't used to doing it. That's why I enjoy putting these as just a warm up or cool down to your main lift. So you're not putting all your energy into this right off the bat. Then obviously, if you're an athlete where jumping is your main thing, you're probably not even watching this video and you're much more knowledgeable about it and gonna pursue these to much higher levels. But my whole thing is adding just a little bit of this can be very helpful for pretty much everyone in the population, and for jiu-jitsu athletes and grapplers, it can be very useful, especially the deep tier category that we're going to go into. So the 2 main types of plyometrics that we're going to do are kind of your standard classic plyometrics where you're staying springy and you're jumping. These are going to be our pogo hops. That's all that we're going to go over in this video. And then your deep tier plyometrics are where you're kind of landing like in a squat, like a squat jump would be an example of a deep tier plyo, where it's not a true plyo where you have a very small ground contact time, but it still is jumping. We're going to call it a plyometric, and it's very useful. So pogo hops, the most simple and basic thing to get into. You can just do these in place, or you can do it traversing distance, like going side to side or straight down and back. These are simply like this, like you're doing a jump rope or something, but with no jump rope. You can obviously scale these if you're very concerned about knee pain, ankle issues. You haven't done this in a while. You can simply just hop on your toes without your toes leaving the ground, but also without your heels touching the ground, okay? Then you can start to have a little bit of going into the air a little bit. One important thing when you're doing these all out is to try to bring your toes up when you do them. So try to not like keep your feet pointed like this. Try to stay like you're attacking the ground, but not letting your heels hit the ground. That's going to be a bit more effective for these. So you're actually kind of pulling your toe towards your shin when you get up in the air, and then you're just attacking the ground at the last second instead of staying like this. But that can be kind of a progression that you go to. First, not really even letting your toes leave the ground, then letting them leave a little bit, then really coming up, trying to bring your toes up and attack the ground without your heels hitting the ground. You can do that progression, adding reps over time, then adding intensity and height, and lifting the toes up and attacking the ground. And then the next progression is to just do the same thing on one leg, okay? I don't have to demonstrate all that, but you're going from barely coming off the ground, coming a little higher, to trying to attack the ground more with more intensity. Then you can do that traversing distance. Once you're able to do that really intense on one leg, you should be able to sprint and run without getting those shin splint type issues. Now for deep tier plyos, the basic entry point for this is just doing something like a squat jump and then adding range of motion as you go. 2 basic variations you can do for this would be one more of like a Hindu squat style jump that's more focused on knee bend, where we're letting the toes come up. and we're getting a full deep knee bend, balancing on the toes. The other variation is gonna be more hip focused, and that's gonna be keeping the heels down and hitting like a full deep squat like this, or at least as low as you can go. You can progress these by trying to jump up higher, doing more reps obviously, and even adding a little bit of weight to these can be helpful, but only do that once you're proficient with it. Another variation is just the split squat jumps like this. Doing a good split squat. You can do them alternating like you see people do. I'm obviously not very good at it. Same thing, you can progress that by intensity, height, reps, and adding weight. And another very good variation for this is a front foot elevated split squat jump, where you can really get deeper into this hip by adding more of an elevation. This can be a great way to build up mobility and your ability to get deeper in that position, as well as improving your injury resilience. You know, for doing things like penetration shots and wrestling, those are areas that people get injured a lot, and doing this will help a lot. Man, I'm too out of breath from that. I just drank a bunch of coffee, so I'm like elevated. All right. Last variation of squat jumps or deep tier plyos. You've seen these before, just lateral jumps like this, but we're gonna go deeper into them, kind of landing like so. Okay, I'm not a master at these obviously, but these are something you can add in, kind of like a Cossack squat jump, and getting deeper and landing deeper into it. So those are a few variations of deep tier plyos and regular plyos. Spend 5-10 minutes adding those in a couple times a week, and it will pay dividends.